Oscar guy here. Welcome. Welcome. Here we are. It's a new year. It's a new season. It's the 2023-2024 Film Awards season. It's August, and I think it is a good time to do my very first Oscar predictions video. I do have a definitive list of predictions for each category. It's still very early. I would say we're still kind of in the preseason. I think the season doesn't really kick off until the fall film festivals like Venice and TIFF and Telluride and all that stuff. That's coming in September and October. But I think like I said, it's a good time for us to dive in here because we got some things to talk about. We got a lot of films in the queue for each category, and we're just going to jump right in. We're not gonna waste any more time. I do have two things. Number one, I know it's broad frickin' daylight, dude. We got windows. We got windows now. Come on. I remember my last predictions video that I did right before last year's Oscars. I had just moved into this new apartment and the walls were bare. Well, guess what? Look what we got. What we got? We got some. We got a collage of a lot of my favorite movies of all time up here, and we got the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think for one of my live streams or for one of my other videos, I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna go through these, and there's some movies that I forgot to put on here, by the way, but that's besides the point. Now y'all got something to look at other than my bare ass walls. So that's that. Without further ado, let's get into these categories here. Starting off with, of course, Best Picture. Here we go. So, at number one, I have Killers of the Flower Moon, the next Martin Scorsese picture that premiered at the Cannes Film Festival this year. It received a rapturous standing ovation. I hear it's masterful in its direction and on its performances. 3.5 hour Martin Scorsese fare, but I hear it's just wonderful. And I just feel like it's still on top now. There's a lot of people that are saying that Oppenheimer is actually number one, which I don't really argue with that. I think that's a valid point. But for me, I know I haven't seen Killers yet. It's not out yet. It comes out in a couple months. I just feel like this might be Scorsese's year. It also might be Nolan's year. It's kind of still up in the air at this point. But for me, I do have Killers winning. Oppenheimer is a very close second. I have seen Oppenheimer. It is probably my favorite film of the year so far. I need to see it again. I've only seen it once. It is fantastic, and I think there is definitely a chance for that to be, it's already a front runner. I do see it winning picture. That could very well happen. He doesn't have a lot of his films get nominated for Best Picture. I know Inception was. The Dark Knight was on the cusp. But that's before the Best Picture lineup was expanded. Dunkirk was nominated. Films like Interstellar and Tenet missed. But I think Oppenheimer is being recognized as one of his best films. It's my personal favorite Nolan film. It is definitely up there. It is absolutely a front runner, for sure. Underneath that is Past Lives. I'm kind of scared for Past Lives because I feel like it's kind of losing steam in a way, but conversely, I think the critics will latch onto this film throughout the year. They're going to look back on the year and say, hey, what were the most critically acclaimed films? What were some of the best films of the year? Past Lives is still a part of that pantheon for sure. Yeah, I think that is pretty firmly in the Best Picture top 10 here, and in my top 5. And a lot of people do have it still in the top 5 or top 10 of the year. So hopefully steam will not lose for Past Lives. I don't have it in a lot of categories. In fact, I think I only have it for 2 categories right now. I think I have a women talking package for it, just picture and screenplay. Acting awards are possible. I mean, I'm not sure how good it will do on text, but picture and screenplay seem to be there's the strongest chances for Past Lives. Underneath that is The Holdovers, which is the new Alexander Payne film. The trailer came out. The trailer looks great. I can't wait for it. Alexander Payne movies have historically performed very well with the Academy. We're talking about Nebraska. We're talking about The Descendants. We're talking about Sideways. I mean, this guy churns out some really acclaimed stuff that the Academy latches onto. So, and from what I've heard, The Holdovers is kind of this year's crowd-pleasy kind of pick-me-up type of movie that were kind of lacking, outside of maybe Barbie. And in a sense, Past Lives, it's not really like feel good, it's just feel in general, that movie. But I think that film is going to really balance out this lineup for sure. And who knows how well it's going to do. It's coming out this fall. I think it's premiering at TIFF. I'm not sure. Let me just look. We're going to do some on-the-fly research, by the way, so just bear with me here. The Holdovers is premiering at TIFF. It is premiering at TIFF, and it is being released widely October 27th. Wow, 133 minutes long. But yeah, that's definitely in my top 5. Behind that is Dune Part 2. Now, there is talk that Dune Part 2 is going to be pushed to next year due to the ongoing WGA and SAG strikes, which hopefully are going to get resolved pretty soon. But anyway, Dune Part 2 I do have in for right now. It's obvious. I mean, the trailers look fantastic. It looks even more grandiose than the first film, and the first film swept tech categories the year it came out. So it'll probably be a big player. It's got some competition with Oppenheimer for sure, but I think it's it's got a strong presence in this category and in all the other categories. So Dune Part 2 I have in. Barbie I do have in my top 10, not quite in my top 5. I do see Barbie. It's got to be nominated for Best Picture. I don't know. I mean, it might not break the top 5, but I do have it in for top 10. I mean, it's just the biggest sensation of the year, hands down, this year so far. Globally, domestically, it is just killing it. People really love this movie. So I have it in. And I also have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This is another film that is just so critically lauded. It somehow outdid Into the Spider-Verse on every front, in my opinion anyway. I do see it making the Best Picture 10. Who knows? Maybe it'll be Pinocchio last year and only get nominated in animated feature and still sweep that category in every precursor. I do see that happening, but I think for now, I got it in quite a few categories, including Best Picture. So Saltburn, Emerald Fennell's follow-up to Promising Young Woman, which was a screenplay winner. It was a Best Picture nominee. I want to say Emerald Fennell was nominated for director as well. No? Was she nominated for director? She was nominated for director. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, great. So, Saltburn, I hear, is quite the film. It sounds like it's going to be a very solid follow-up for Emerald Fennell, so I do have that in the top 10. Maestro is the new Bradley Cooper picture where he directs and also portrays Leonard Bernstein. I have heard mixed reactions for the film in some of the early test screenings, and they even did reshoots, and they test screened it again, and they kind of had the same reactions. Now, it's not totally wise to base your perceived, reception to a film solely based on test screenings, but we're just gonna have to see when it comes out. It's really one of the only Netflix films out this year that will be in contention for Academy Awards. So I do kind of, not so firmly, but kind of loosely have it in my top 10 here. Maybe it'll come out and maybe it'll resonate with people. Maybe Bradley Cooper's performance is just so strong and the craft is there despite, some of the pacing issues that I've heard that it has. Maybe it'll be strong enough for, to show up in these categories like Best Picture. So I do have it in my top 10. Number 10, just barely making the cut, is the Cannes Palme d'Or winner, Anatomy of a Fall. That is the international feature pick this year, I think. It's really between that and The Zone of Interest, which is kind of down below this list here. That won the Grand Prix at the Cannes Film Festival. That film is a little more experimental and auteur, and then Anatomy of a Fall is kind of a more straight-ahead courtroom drama. I hear the screenplay is very captivating. The performances are great, particularly Sandra Hüller, which we'll get to later. International features have been getting into picture for the last several years. So I just feel like this is the one that the Academy is going to latch onto, other than, the zone of interest. So I do have that in here. And now we are now below the line. The color purple I have at number 11. I've seen the trailer for Color Purple, and it looks fine. It's from a first-time director. It could go either way. We're just going to have to wait and see. This comes out on Christmas, kind of, really in the mid-season. So, people are kind of lukewarm on it, but if it's going to be really good, like more like above average and great, I guess, it's going to show up a lot. It's going to show up in the acting categories. Might get the West Side Story treatment as far as presence in these categories. For right now, I do have it missing in a lot of places. I think it's just barely going to miss the Best Picture top 10 here. So we'll see. Number 12, I have Air, but I'm not predicting any nominations for Air, actually. So I think I might have to bump that down just a little bit. But if Air is going to get a Best Picture nomination, it's going to need either adapted screenplay or, something. Editing. Number 13, I have Poor Things, the new Yorgos Lanthimos film, his follow-up to, I think his last film was The Favorite, which was an Academy favorite. That showed up a lot of places. That was nominated for Best Picture. But Yorgos's films they're strange. They're strangely shot. They use super wide-angle lenses. And Poor Things looks like a very freaking weird film. It looks so weird. I'm not sure how the Academy is going to respond to it. We're just going to have to see when it comes out. I think that is premiering at Venice Film Festival, I want to say. Even if it is critically acclaimed and it surprises us, I do still doubt that it will get into picture. I do have it nominated in some categories, but we're just going to have to see. It might be a little too weird for the Academy. May December is next. I do have that in the acting categories, but I do not have it in picture for right now. We're just going to have to see how that will perform. The Killer, the new David Finch film, we don't know a lot about it. Well, Michael Fassbender's in it, Tilda Swinton's in it, and it's kind of a thriller. So the Academy strangely has a bias towards thrillers, so I just don't think it's going to perform very well. But we'll see. The Zone of Interest, I hear, it's one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year by the auteur director Jonathan Glazer, who brought us Sexy Beast, one of my favorite films. Under the Skin, a very strange and experimental science fiction film that he released 10 years ago. He's only made 4 movies since he started making movies in 1999, so he's one of these directors like a Todd Field who really takes his time in crafting these stories for us. So the Zone of Interest is it's set during the Holocaust, and it is from the point of view and perspective of a German family that is right outside of Auschwitz. And it is a very fly-on-the-wall kind of experimental film where you're kind of just observing the lives of these Germans while kind of having these atrocities committed meters away from them. And I hear it's very chilling, and it's a very captivating observation of the human nature and evil. It's not going to be a crowd pleaser whatsoever. Very experimental. I'll be very surprised if the Academy latches onto this one and nominates it in several places, especially Best Picture. So I do have it way below the line here. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the general public thinks about it, and maybe it'll be a huge critic sweeper, but we're just going to have to see. And underneath that, I have Ferrari. Don't know much about it. It's Adam Driver is in it. Nyad is a kind of a biopic-y type film starring Annette Bening. I hear it might be a big proponent to get Annette Bening finally nominated after many years of being snubbed, but we will see. And, of course, Next Goal Wins, the very long-anticipated Taika Waititi follow-up to Jojo Rabbit. I don't know. I don't really know what to expect from Next Goal Wins, and see if it will finally come out and finally perform the way, Jojo Rabbit did, but, we just don't know yet. So that's my picture top 10. Onwards to the next category. So next up we have director. Right now I have Marty at the top. I do have Killers winning picture. And it might be time for Marty to get that second best director win after his win for The Departed all those years ago. He really has competition with Christopher Nolan here. Like I said earlier, this could be Nolan's year. This could be Scorsese's year. Oppenheimer is an incredibly well-directed film. A lot of people have Nolan as the number one here. Again, I'm still latching on to Killers for right now. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe my opinions will change once I do see it, and maybe once I see Oppenheimer for a second or third time. I do have Marty at the top and Christopher Nolan in a very, very close second. It's going to be a tight race this year between these two. But outside of that, I do have Denis Villeneuve at number 3 for Dune Part 2. He missed for the first Dune, and there's a lot of theories on why that was. He was nominated everywhere, and the Academy decided to snub him. But I feel part of the reason why they did that is because Dune was Part 1, and then Part 2 is, I think, it's going to be the more showy, the more impressive film overall. So maybe this will be his chance to finally get nominated. So I do have him in the top 5. Some people do have him missing still. It's kind of a stacked category this year, director. So we'll see. I have him at number 3. Alexander Payne I have at number 4 for The Holdovers. He gets nominated quite a bit for director. He's been nominated for... I know he was nominated for... Was he nominated for Nebraska? Let's see. Let's do some research here. Alexander Payne, film director. He was nominated for director for Sideways, The Descendants, and Nebraska. So this would be his 4th director nomination. So pretty much every time he's made a film since 2005, he's been nominated for director. So it's very likely he's going to get nominated again for The Holdovers. Again, we're going to have to see how The Holdovers will perform, but I feel like that he's pretty solidly in there for right now. And then number 5, on many occasions these past several years, the international film frontrunner has been nominated for Best Director. Ryusuke Hamaguchi, Ruben Östlund, the guy who directed Another Round, Thomas Vinterberg. It's been happening more and more often. So you have to kind of save that 5th slot for the international player. And it's kind of between Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest and Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall. And I did have Triet in as number 5 up until recently, but I've kind of swapped them for right now, and I have Glazer in for The Zone of Interest at number 5. Just because I have heard that the crowning achievement of that film is its direction and its vision. And I feel like Jonathan Glazer is more of a auteur filmmaker name that people recognize more than Triet, at least in the Academy's eyes, perhaps in the Western audience. I just feel like he's due. He hasn't been nominated before. Maybe this is it. Maybe this time he will get his proper recognition and get nominated for this achievement that he has here. So I have him in. Triet is right behind him as that 5th international slot. I have Celine Song for Past Lives at number 7. There's a lot of people that are predicting her to get in. I think she's very worthy to get in. I would be very happy if she does get in. Past Lives is a immaculately directed film, and it's her first film, which is insane. She is definitely, absolutely this year's Charlotte Wells for Aftersun. She's probably going to get into a lot of precursors, a lot of critics groups. She's going to get, a slew of first-time director awards all year. So we're just going to have to see. But I do think for right now, I think she has that Charlotte Wells curse. Just her being kind of a new name, first-time director, small indie film. Well, not really small. It's an A24 film, but we're just going to have to see. Bradley Cooper, Maestro, is right behind her. Bradley Cooper hasn't been nominated for director yet. He was famously or infamously rather snubbed in director for A Star Is Born, so maybe that will happen again. But I do hear that Maestro is a very finely directed film. I think he has improved his directing chops since The Star Is Born, and A Star Is Born is a very well directed film as well. So he's kind of on the outside, but I do see him missing. Maybe there's a world where he'll get in if Maestro is, it surprises us and is actually very good. We're just gonna have to see. Greta Gerwig for Barbie, I do have down there at number 9, and I'm not sure why. It's just like I just feel like Barbie is going to excel in other categories like picture and some text like production design, costume design, well, I don't have it for cinematography, but song, supporting actor. It's a tight race, man. It's a really tight race. It would be really cool if she was nominated. And then same thing with Emerald Fennell for Saltburn. We're just gonna have to see how well they perform. I know Emerald Fennell was nominated for Promising Young Woman. Greta Gerwig, I believe, was nominated for Lady Bird. Has she been nominated for director before? I want to say she was nominated for Lady Bird, but not Little Women. Or it may have been the other way around. Okay, she was nominated for director for Lady Bird and not Little Women. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We're just going to have to see. Moving on from there. Here we go. Actress, leading actress. At number 1, I have Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall. And in a very close second, I have Fantasia Barrino for The Color Purple. So, Fantasia, I think if The Color Purple performs very well, I think she is very solidly in to possibly win here. But if The Color Purple is kind of, mid or lukewarm, then maybe Fantasia will be able to carry herself to possibly a win, but a nomination at the very least. But for right now, I do have Sandra Hüller at number 1 just because I hear that she is a tour de force in Anatomy of a Fall. I think she is going to be a front runner for critics groups. I think critics are going to just be all over this performance. It's really a masterclass from what I hear. Multilingual, just kind of just carries the whole film, basically. So I do have her at number 1. Annette Bening I have in the top 5 here. Not a lot of people have her in the top 5, but I feel like there's a brewing narrative for her. She has been nominated so many times, and she has not won. She kind of has this Glenn Close-esque narrative where she just has been nominated so many times and just has not won an Oscar yet. And she's come close many, many times. So this would be her 5th nomination. She was nominated for The Grifters, American Beauty, Being Julia, and The Kids Are All Right. And that was way back in 2010, so it's been 13 years since she has been nominated for an Academy Award. So she portrays a long-distance swimmer who swims, I think, from Cuba to Florida at the age of 60. So it's kind of like a biopic. It's going to premiere at TIFF. We're just going to have to see if she is going to be a front-runner for leading actress. I would love to see it. She is a wonderful actress who needs to get her proper recognition. I'm in for it. I'm in, dog. So I got her at number 3. Natalie Portman in May December. I hear she's very good, along with Julianne Moore and Charles Melton, I think is his name. I do have her in the top 5. She's previous winner, previous nominee. It's been a little bit since she's had a prominent performance in the Pantheon here, so maybe this will be her year. And number 5 is kind of a tough slot. Number 5 could go any way. We can give one to Greta Lee, which would be great. She kind of has a more of an understated, more nuanced performance. Margot Robbie is also very good, but I do see her kind of missing. Carey Mulligan, we don't really know much about. Jessica Lange in Long Day's Journey into Night, the adaptation of the famous play. People don't even know if that film doesn't even have a distributor yet, So I don't even know if that film's going to be even coming out this year. So maybe that's just like, not going to happen. But if it does come out this year, and she's as good as she is in the play, she did win a Tony for her performance in the play. People are saying she's going to be in the 5, man. She's going to get nominated. So, but she's kind of down at the bottom here just because we don't even know if the movie exists. So, anyway, Kate Winslet in Lee. So, she's a journalist. She plays a war journalist, an actual war journalist, Lee Miller. And Kate Winslet, of course, previous winner, previous nominee. That could be something that you need to look out for. But we haven't talked about what my number 5 actually is, and it's Emma Stone in Poor Things. Now, like I said, Poor Things looks weird as hell. But Emma Stone, again, she won for La La Land. She's been nominated multiple times. What she's doing in this film looks crazy. Like, it's crazy. She plays this woman who has, like, a child's brain or something. And just physically, if you look at the trailers and see what she's doing, it's like, what's going on, bro? And she looks very interesting. Her co-stars like Willem Dafoe and Mark Ruffalo are saying that she is doing some crazy shit in this movie. I feel like this could be in. She could be in the 5 here. Again, they could go with a more nuanced performance like Greta Lee in Past Lives. Maybe she'll be this year's Paul Mescal in After Sun. We'll see. But for right now, I do have Emma Stone in. Maybe they'll be up the alley for a crazy-ass performance for a former winner, former nominee. She was nominated for Yorgos' last film, The Favorite. We're just going to have to see. So that's my 5, and that's Best Actress, and we're now moving on to Best Actor. Here we go. So at number 1, another stacked category. What do you know? Is this going to be a repeat of last year, dude? It's going to be hard mode. Bradley Cooper, I have at number 1, Maestro. Now, if you've seen the pictures of Bradley Cooper as Leonard Bernstein.
Fabulous. That's the way that dog was.
Bro, the makeup job? What? Whoa. Dude. And we all know that the makeup category and the acting categories, they're tight. They're locked up, dude. Look at last year. Once The Whale won makeup, I was like, all right, I guess Fraser's winning. And sure enough, he did. Gary Oldman wins. That won makeup. It's a very strong correlation. So if Maestro's going to win makeup, then Bradley Cooper's chances to win actor are kind of, fortified, if you will. On top of that, I hear Bradley Cooper gives a very Beatty performance in Maestro. I feel like he's going to do all he needs to do to get an Oscar, kind of like what Jessica Chastain did for Tammy Faye. He's portraying a real-life figure, a very influential and popular real-life figure. I do have him winning right now. We're just going to have to see how Maestro performs, but I do have him winning. Behind that is Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, who gives an incredible performance. He doesn't really have like Oscar clip scenes. He kind of just is good throughout the entire movie. So he kind of has that going against him a little bit. But I don't know. I just don't, as good as he is, I don't really see him winning. As much as I would love that, I don't see him winning for some reason. I just don't. Those types of performances are not usually winners. As they should be. I do have him at number 2. Leo is number 3 for Killers of a Flower Moon, which I hear is, some people are calling it his best performance, which is saying a lot because look at that career. Look at the list of performances from Leonardo DiCaprio that are all-timers, I mean, we're even going all the way back to Gilbert Grape, The Aviator, Wolf of Wall Street, The Revenant, Blood Diamond. I could go on. I could keep going. But I hear that his performance in Killers is one of his best, if not his best. So if that's the case, is he gonna win? Some people are saying, I don't know, maybe, he's had his time. Why would the Academy give him another Oscar for this? I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen Killers yet. I would like to see it. I would like to see him walk away with another Oscar for a more deserving performance than The Revenant. Maybe that'll happen. So for number 4, I have Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, which I hear he kind of carries that film. Well, I don't know. Maybe not single-handedly carries that film, but he is just kind of. I think he is putting in some good work with this film. The trailer looks very promising. Looks like he's going to be a tour de force here. He is probably most likely going to be winning like the Golden Globe comedy musical, so he's going to have that for him. I feel like he is very solidly in, even though he hasn't had a lot of luck with the Academy. He was infamously snubbed for Sideways. I heard his performance is very, very good in that film, one of the best in that film, if not the best, and he missed an Oscar nomination for whatever reason. I think he was nominated for like a lot of precursors that year, but he missed a nomination. And I think his only nomination is for Cinderella Man. Paul Giamatti. His only nomination, Best Supporting Actor for Cinderella Man. It's his only nomination. It was way back in 2006. He's been nominated for 5 Golden Globes. Barney's version, he won for Barney's version, comedy and musical, Best Actor. He's been nominated for a ton of Emmys. He's won several SAG awards. Cast for Sideways, supporting actor in Cinderella Man. He won the SAG for that. Been nominated for a ton of Critics' Choice Awards. Won for Sideways. Won for Cinderella Man. But again, he only has that one Oscar nomination for Cinderella Man, so that's concerning. That's concerning. Maybe he'll get into every precursor and then miss the Academy Award. I don't know. I do have him in, though. I do think this might be his year. We'll see. We'll see. It looks very promising for right now, but I do have him in at number 4. And number 5, again, is that slot that's kind of up in the air. Some are saying that Coleman Domingo is very strong in Rustin. I hear Rustin is kind of like this year's Till, in a sense that the movie is like fine, but the biggest takeaway from the film is the titular performance, Coleman Domingo. So maybe that will be this year's version of that. So maybe he will get in there. I've heard good things about Michael Fassbender and The Killer. We don't know a lot. Joaquin Phoenix and Napoleon's kind of still up in the air. That could go either way. We're talking about Ridley Scott here, so he kind of makes duds and then a good one and then a dud and then a good one. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope for it personally, but we'll see. Kingsley Ben-Adir for Bob Marley. One Love. From what the trailer looks like, it does kind of feel very generic, like biopic type of fare. So maybe Kingsley Ben-Adir is going to be like this year's Whitney Houston biopic situation. So maybe he'll get nominated for some early precursors and stuff like that, and then kind of fizzle out once award season kind of, kicks off. The film isn't coming out until January too, so are they even going to campaign him at that point? We're just going to have to see. Not sure. And then Teo Yu for Past Lives. I have it at the bottom. I don't really see it happening as much as I like his performance in that film. It's just a little too understated, a little too subtle for what the Academy would go for, but we'll see. Maybe they will love Past Lives to death. Not sure. But let's talk about my pick for number 5. My pick for number 5 is Barry Keoghan in Saltburn. Not only was he nominated last year for The Banshees of Inisherin, he won the BAFTA, crazily. From what I've heard from Twitter and from what other actors are kind of saying, co-stars, people who have seen the film from festivals and stuff, people were saying that he will shock you in Saltburn. It's kind of a big showcase for Barry Keoghan. So maybe kind of piggybacking off of his nomination last year from Banshees and that BAFTA win could also contribute as well. Maybe that will help him rise up to have a nomination here. I feel good about it. I think I'm going to have Barry Keoghan in my top 5 for probably the rest of the award season. Unless Saltburn comes out and people are like, it's okay. Which I don't see happening. I I think I have him in. I think I'm pretty confident in that. So, Barry Keoghan, Saltburn, congratulations. Moving on to the supporting categories. Here we go. Supporting actress. Lily Gladstone in Killers of a Flower Moon is my number 1, and I feel like she's got this in the bag. I do hear it's kind of an understated performance. It's not like a very bombastic performance, but I hear that she is more or less the heart of Killers of the Flower Moon. She's a central figure in the film. People have said that they kind of want more of her character in the film, and what she does really leaves an impact emotionally on viewers who have seen it. So I think that is just an easy top spot for right now. Now, we're going to have to see how The Color Purple does, how The Holdovers do, or The Holdovers does. May, December, and Saltburn, we haven't really seen them yet, so we're just going to have to see. But I do have Taraji P. Henson in for The Color Purple. I did kind of think about having both supporting actresses from The Color Purple in here, Taraji P. Henson and Danielle Brooks. Based on what the musicals are and what those performances are, they will be showcases for these actresses. But the only reason why I have only one of these actresses in is that I do have The Color Purple missing picture. And having multiple acting awards with acting nominations without that Best Picture nomination or without another above-the-line nomination is very unlikely. So for right now, I only have one, and I have chosen Taraji P. Henson only because she is a former nominee. She was nominated for Benjamin Button all those years back, so that's really my only reasoning for that. So I do have her at number 2. I do have Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. From what I hear, I think she is going to give a very crowd-pleasing type of warm performance of this year. I think she is pretty solidly in. I think she's going to be solidly in there. Julianne Moore, like I said, for May, December, I hear gives a very, very good performance alongside Natalie Portman and Charles Melton. I think she is in. I think if May, December is going to get nominated anywhere, I think the acting categories are its best bet. And it's kind of hard for me to, only pick either Natalie Portman or Julianne Moore. I think they will be both nominated because they kind of, it's kind of a part of the whole package, the acting package, the ensemble or whatever, along with Charles Melton. But I feel like if Julianne Moore is going to be nominated, Natalie Portman's got to be nominated, and vice versa. So I have her in for right now. And again, that 5th slot is up in the air. So for right now, I have Rosamund Pike and Saltburn. I feel like this is her year to finally get back on the train. She was nominated for Gone Girl all those years back. She's a great actress, and I think she deserves more. And I think this might be her chance to shine. Maybe she is just very good in this film. So I feel like she's in, just barely. Like I said, Danielle Brooks could be double nommed if The Color Purple performs well. For right now, I have her missing. Emily Blunt Oppenheimer, I hear, is a possibility. She's in some of the film, in bits and pieces of it. She's kind of, she's in the background a little bit for a lot of it, and she kind of has this, she does have this presence, this emotional presence in the film as Oppenheimer's wife. But there is one scene in the 3rd act of the film where she is being either cross-examined or in the hearing or whatever. She's being interviewed or interrogated or whatever you call it. And she does some really great work in that one scene in particular, and has some people like kind of applauding. So maybe that is something that will kind of push her to that edge, if you will, to possibly being nominated if Oppenheimer is going to be the juggernaut that it will be. So I do see that as a possibility, but I have her missing for just for right now. Viola Davis for Air. One of the more acclaimed early season, early year performances. We all know that she missed last year for The Woman King, unfortunately. So maybe this year will be the Academy's chance to kind of apologize and be like, hey, you're really good in this movie. Here you go. Here's the nomination. Previous winner, previous nomination. She's Viola frickin' Davis, man. She's an EGOT, man. She's an EGOT. I do see that happening, but I don't know. I think a lot of steam has been lost for that performance, unfortunately, as great as it is. We're just gonna have to see. We're just gonna have to see how Air will perform in the late season. I do see her like getting nominated for Globe, and then like that's it, and maybe like Critics' Choice, and then that'll be it. And maybe it'll be a Woman King again. Well, she'll get nominated everywhere, and then miss the Oscar. We'll see. Florence Pugh and Oppenheimer. I don't know. I don't know why I have her in my top 10. I kind of ran out of options here. She's really good in Oppenheimer. She's just not really in the film enough to kind of secure anything. She doesn't really have like a scene that really elevates her. You know what I mean? I think she is kind of not a missed opportunity, but just like we needed more from her in this film in order for me to be more confident in giving her a possible nomination here. I don't see it happening. As great as she is, and of course she's a former nominee as well. I don't know. I don't see it happening. Emily Blunt kind of has the edge there. And then Tilda Swinton for the Killer. I have her in, previous winner, previous nominee. We're going to have to see how The Killer does and how good she is in that film and how that all fares. But that's those are my picks for supporting actress. We got to talk about supporting actor first. Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer is number one. Before Oppenheimer came out, people were like, yeah, we just didn't know how much of the film that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be in. People were thinking maybe Matt Damon was going to have more screen time. But then it came out and people saw the movie and they were like, oh, that's Robert Downey Jr. Oh, he's really good. Oh, he was Iron Man for a while. And now he's out of the MCU. And now he's doing movies like this, doing this type of work. Oh, he's the front runner, isn't he? He's the front runner, isn't he? He's got a good narrative, man. He's been nominated before, Chaplin in the early 90s, and then he kind of had his downfall, and then he came back, and then he did Iron Man and his whole resurgence and everything like that, and then he had that nomination for Tropic Thunder. This would be his third. And that he did all of his MCU stuff, and he's a household name. He has this charisma and this personality that is just infectious, and he's a damn good actor, and he puts in great work in Oppenheimer. I think the Oscar is almost engraved in his name at this point. I think he's going to walk away with this one. He does have a little bit of competition, which we'll get to, but I think just the narrative alone just is almost securing his win, in my opinion. I think he is the guy to beat for sure. Watch out for RDJ. Watch out for RDJ. But in a close second, I do have Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon, which I've heard gives one of his best performances in quite a long time. Maybe his best performance since perhaps Silver Linings Playbook, or maybe even before that. I mean, he was pretty good in The Irishman. I'll give him that. But I feel like this is his first performance in a Scorsese film alongside Leo. That's a big deal. They're both putting in very, very good work in this film. I think I don't know. I think he's still solidly in the top 5, if not in the top 2, top 3. So I have him at number 2 right now. Ryan Gosling in Barbie gives a fantastic performance, a fantastic comedic performance. Ryan Gosling is a marvelous comedic actor. He's done a lot of drama stuff as well. and of course he's a household name. He's a great actor, and he is getting just so much attention and love. I think he's very solidly in. Some people are saying that he might be even winning, but yeah, I don't know. He's very goofy. It's a very goofy performance. It's a comedic performance. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I will give you maybe a 33% chance that he'll win the Oscar. I don't know. I'm not too confident on it, but I do think he will get nominated for sure. And if he doesn't get nominated, I don't know what I'm going to think about that. But I think he's very solidly in there. Number 4, I have Charles Melton in May December. Not kind of a newcomer, not really a household name at all, but I hear that he holds his own against Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman. I think he is solidly in. I think May December is going to get a master-esque package. Actor, or rather, 3 acting nominations, basically. Actress, supporting actor. I think that is very possible. So I do have him in. He might miss. We'll see. But I think that May-December package is very solidified at this point. And then number 5, I have another new name here that you've never heard of. A man by the name of Dominic Sessa in The Holdovers. Watch the Holdovers trailer and take note of Dominic Sessa. For some reason, he has an aura about him and about his performance and his delivery and his chemistry with Giamatti that I think he seems very strong. I think he is going to give a really strong performance in The Holdovers, and maybe he'll be this year's Gabriel LaBelle in The Fabelmans. Maybe he'll be nominated for a lot of precursors, a lot of young actor awards. Maybe he'll sweep those. I don't know. For right now, my gut is telling me that Dominic Sessa might pull off some shit in The Holdovers. I do like that. And I kind of do see it happening. So right now, I do have him in my top 5. Maybe that's crazy. Not a lot of people are doing that, but I'm gonna go out on a whim and I'm just gonna say he might get nominated. We'll see. Underneath that, below the line, we have John Majaro in Past Lives. Very understated, nuanced, delicate performances and storytelling. Kind of an uphill battle there, but John Majaro is kind of, has a big presence in that film. I think he does some very good work in Past Lives. If there's going to be one supporting performance that's nominated from that movie, it's absolutely him. Greta Lee definitely has a bigger shot to get nominated for actress, but I think Majaro, it's possible. I do have him missing right now, but I think it's possible. We'll see. Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. Of course, Mark Ruffalo is a household name. He's been nominated tons of times. He kind of is doing some wacky shit in Poor Things. He has a very charismatic character that he's portraying in that film. Maybe, I don't know. We do have to consider him. Coleman Domingo in The Color Purple. We'll see. Richard E. Grant in Saltburn. We'll see. Teo Yu is kind of, at number 10. I'm not sure if he's going to be campaigned in lead or supporting, but in any case, I do have him kind of at the bottom. We'll see. But yeah, those are my top 5. Moving on. All right, screenplay categories. Adapted screenplay. I do have Killers winning. Oppenheimer is a very, very close second, in my opinion. I have not seen Killers yet. But in my opinion, Oppenheimer is absolutely worthy of winning the Oscar for adapted screenplay. It is immaculate, absolutely immaculate. On top of the screenplay being kind of groundbreaking in a way, where a lot of the movie is in the first-person perspective from Oppenheimer's point of view, and also the objective standpoint from Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Louis Strauss. So that has it going for it. But anyway, Killers of the Flower Moon. I do have it winning adapted screenplay just because I do have it winning picture. So it kind of needs some kind of package. I have it in picture, I have it in director, and I have it winning in adapted screenplay and supporting actress as well. So I think that is the best picture. That is a package that makes sense to me. So I do have it winning, but Oppenheimer is very strong and is a very likely worthy upset. So I do have that at number 2. Barbie is number 3. Very strong screenplay. Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, they have been nominated several times individually. I think it makes perfect sense that they will be nominated together for Barbie. Very, 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 very likely. So Dune Part 2 is up next. Dune was nominated for Adapted the year that came out. I don't see why it wouldn't make it here. So I do have that in as well. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I have it in just because I have it in for picture. That needs some kind of package. It can't just get nominated for animated and then picture. That doesn't really happen. It needs something else. It needs either adapted screenplay or score or like another tech or something like that, visual effects. So I do have it in for adapted screenplay for that 5th slot. Poor Things, I have under the top 5 here. The Killer, The Zone of Interest, not really a screenplay-y type of film from what I hear. And then Next Goal Wins is kind of in the top 10 just because of Taika Waititi. So not a whole lot to say about the below-the-line stuff here, but that's my 5 for adapted. And original screenplay, I have Past Lives winning. That's the screenplay to award for sure this year. I mean, the biggest strength of that film, I think, is the screenplay. It's marvelous, and it's very deserving. And I feel like this could be this year's Women Talking, where it is nominated for picture and screenplay, and it wins screenplay as like a surprise. You know, maybe The Holdovers will win, you know, a lot of the precursors. Maybe it'll be kind of like in contention with some other critics groups and stuff like that. But, you know, I was predicting Holdovers, actually, previously, just because Alexander Payne, his films are always nominated for screenplay. In fact, he's won multiple times for screenplay for Sideways and for The Descendants. But the difference between those films and his other films like Nebraska that was nominated, Nebraska was not written by Alexander Payne. It was written by somebody else. Sideways and The Descendants was co-written by Alexander Payne. Those both won. Nebraska was nominated. It didn't win. That was not written by Alexander Payne. The Holdovers is written by David Hemmingson, and I've looked him up, and he hasn't done a lot. He's done a lot of TV stuff. He's never been nominated for Oscars. I just have a feeling that I don't know. That kind of weakens it a little bit. I just don't think that is quite in the winning conversation as, you know, some of Alexander Payne's past work. So that's the only reason I have it at number 2 and not number 1. Again, I could be wrong, but I think Past Lives is still in the top slot, and then Holdovers maybe in a close-ish second. Saltburn, Maestro, and Anatomy of a Fall I do have in picture, so I think those are going to be the screenplay, nominations for those films. Saltburn, of course, is written by Emerald Fennell. She won for Promising Young Woman in adapted screenplay. Or was it original? I'm not sure. She won for screenplay. Maestro I have in, you know, I don't know, maybe that's an outside shot. Maybe Air will get in there, or maybe even May, December, or something like that. But I do have Maestro in, just because it's in picture and it could be a surprise player. And Anatomy of a Fall is the international pick here. You know, a lot of these international films have been getting into screenplay categories. Look at Worst Person in the World. Look at Drive My Car. There's probably others. What did they nominate last year? Oh, yeah, All Quiet. All Quiet on the Western Front. Yeah, that was nominated for adapted screenplay. And Triangle of Sadness, if you want to count that. Yeah, absolutely. I do see Anatomy of a Fall getting into screenplay for sure. So yeah, that's very solidly in the top 5 there. I talked about Air, talked about May, December. Asteroid City, you know, I don't have it, Asteroid City being nominated anywhere. I think that will get goose-egged again. As great as that film is, it's been very divisive. You know, there's a lot of people think it's too weird and it's not really a crowd pleaser. It's very Wes Anderson-y. But it also has its lovers, like me. I love that movie, but I feel like it's going to get French dispatched, if you will. No screenplay, no production design. I do think the screenplay is very solid, very inventive and unique for sure, very meta. But I'll have it in my top 10 for now. I don't think it'll be nominated as much as I'd love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen. But anyway, Perfect Days, I hear, is a very solid screenplay that is coming out of Cannes Film Festival from Wim Wenders. I do have that in the top 10, and then I have Rustin, which I don't really know anything about outside of the Coleman Domingo thing. I just have that on screenplay just because. I don't know. Ran out of options there. But anyway, moving on to animated feature. Here we go. This may very well be a landslide. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I obviously have it winning just because I have it in picture and these other categories. But even if you don't have it in picture, it's got to win. It's got to win. Into the Spider-Verse won. Across the Spider-Verse outperforms the first one in every way, in my opinion. It was such a big success. It was such a big thing. It's such a monumental achievement, a pillar in animation. It has to be winning. It has to be winning. We've heard a lot about The Boy and the Heron, which the working title of that film was How Do You Live? That is the new Hayao Miyazaki film. It's apparently his last film, but he's had like 3 last films, so who knows if he's actually officially going to retire this time. But it's going to be possibly Hayao Miyazaki's swan song. It is not out yet. It is out in Japan, and people say it's very, very good. Some people were even saying it's one of Miyazaki's best, and then others are saying that it's like really good, but not like incredible, not like a Spirited Away level masterpiece. You kind of need to have that status in order to actually compete with Across the Spider-Verse, in my opinion. So I do have it at number 2. I don't see it winning, but hopefully it'll show up. Elemental I have in. A lot of people were doubting Elemental just because it was, some people really like it, some people didn't like it. It's kind of hit or miss. It was kind of a bomb at first, but it kind of gained traction strangely at the box office. So it's made its money just through word of mouth. So maybe that's in. Maybe Elemental is in. I have it in. I have it in at number 3 for sure. Nimona, I hear, is very good. That will most likely be Netflix's film to campaign for this category, much like The Sea Beast last year. I hear it's very good. I hear it's a very solid film. I haven't seen it, but I do have that in. Wish is the other Disney animated film coming out this year that looks it looks okay. I mean, the trailer came out and it looks a little bit generic, but some people are kind of excited for it. Hasn't come out yet. We'll see how that performs. Maybe that'll be this year's Luca or something like that. We'll just have to see. But for right now, I do have it in the top 5. Number 6, I have Suzume, the new what's his name? Makoto Shinkai? Yeah, it's the new Makoto Shinkai anime film. The same guy who brought us Your Name and The Weathering with You, The Garden of Words. Very prominent anime film director. Has never been nominated for an Oscar, unfortunately. But, Suzume was a huge, huge hit. So I will have that in my top 10. Not really in my top 5. I do see that missing. Not a lot of anime films outside of Miyazaki films ever get nominated. Mirai, Mamoru Hosoda's film, was nominated back in 2018. That was kind of a critical darling. I don't know. We'll see. A lot of people have Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget in their top 5. And I just don't know much about it for me to be confident in that. I don't know. I think Wish and Elemental and maybe even Nimona just will push that out of the way. How good can it be? I don't know. We'll see. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, I hear is very good. But I hear it's not like quite like best animated feature level stuff. Maybe it is, but I don't know. I don't have it in my top 10. Super Mario Brothers movie, as great as some people may call it, critics weren't really into it. I doubt it's going to get nominated. I really highly doubt it's going to get nominated. as big of a success it was, I just that the critical disparity. I just don't think it's going to be there. I don't think it's going to be there, unfortunately. But anyway, and then Robot Dreams I have at number 10. I don't really know much about it, but some people were saying that it's could be a surprise for for the late season. So we'll see. International feature. Here we go. At number 1, I have Anatomy of a Fall, the Palme d'Or winner from Cannes Film Festival from France. I think this is the one. I think this is the one that the Academy will be into. Courtroom drama, very solid from what I hear. Very well written. I think it's easy for right now. The Zone of Interest is also in there. Again, very experimental film, but very, very critically acclaimed. So I feel like that is going to be in. If I have it in director, then obviously I got to have it in here as well. Like Chimera from Italy, Monster from Japan, About Dry Grasses from Turkey. These are all from Cannes Film Festival, I think, that were very critically acclaimed. So I do have those in. And then missing, I do have Perfect Days, El Conde, Fallen Leaves, Pot au Feu, and The Boy and the Heron at the very bottom. I don't think any animated film or any anime film has been ever nominated for international feature. I know that Princess Mononoke was submitted for foreign language film back in '98. I don't even think it was shortlisted. So I don't know. Maybe they'll submit that. Maybe they'll submit Monster. I want to say they're going to submit Monster just because Koreeda's film Shoplifters was nominated. I think that even won, didn't it? Maybe it just was nominated. And then they submitted Broker. I think they're going to submit Monster. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But all these other films I don't really know much about. I know that they've been talked about a lot at these film festivals like Cannes, so that's my kind of top 10 right there. But I do have Anatomy of a Fall winning with Zone of Interest very solidly in there and some of these other picks. So that's international. Moving on from there is cinematography. I have Dune Part 2 winning for right now. Greg Fraser swept this category for the first Dune a couple years back. I think it might happen again. It looks pretty incredible looking, Dune Part 2. It looks breathtaking. I feel like it's going to be like Dune Part 1, but just better and grander. And even more of a big spectacle than the first one was. Which is saying a lot, man, because he crushed that season, dude. Greg Fraser crushed that season in cinematography. So I do have him winning, but in a somewhat close second, I do have Hoyt van Hoytema for Oppenheimer. Awesome cinematography. He's the IMAX man. They made a IMAX 70 millimeter black and white print for this film. We've all seen the 70 millimeter film reel for Oppenheimer. It's insane. They really went all out. I really hope it makes it. I really hope Oppenheimer makes cinematography. Hoyt van Hoytema was nominated, I believe, for, I want to say Dunkirk? Missed last year for Nope. That was another IMAX movie that he shot. He missed last year for Nope. I have a grudge from that. So maybe it'll happen again this year. Who knows? But I feel like this is his year. I think this will be his year. I have him in there. Killers of the Flower Moon I have in for Rodrigo Prieto. He gets nominated a lot, I believe, for Scorsese films. He's a very frequent collaborator of his. Okay, so he was nominated for cinematography 3 times for Brokeback Mountain, Silence, and The Irishman. I do see him getting in here, and the cinematography looks breathtaking in Killers for sure. So I think that he is very solidly in there. Poor Things I have in. That cinematography looks pretty crazy. Very stylized, very wide-angle lenses, beautiful looking film. As weird as it is, it looks breathtaking. And I think he was nominated for, I believe, The Favorite. Was he nominated for The Favorite? Robbie Ryan. He did receive a nomination for the Favorite, for best cinematography. So if he's gonna get that, then this it looks impressive. It looks very impressive to me. So I do have it in my top 5 here. And then I have Linus Sandgren in for Saltburn. I think he won for La La Land. He missed for Babylon, but he's a great cinematographer. And I just feel like if Saltburn is going to have any presence as far as a nomination package, I think cinematography makes sense. Color Purple, looks fine. It looks fine. It doesn't look visually captivating, but we'll see. We'll just have to see when it comes out. The Killer and Ferrari, both by the same cinematographer. Those are possible. Maestro, I hear the cinematography is very solid. And then the Zone of Interest, I hear, kind of has that auteur, like cinematography quality. Like the framing is very calculated. The Academy typically kind of likes cinematography like that, so we'll see. But anyway, those are my top 5 for cinematography. Moving on to some of these other tech categories here. Okay, moving on to costume design. Barbie is out front, absolutely. The costume work in that film, it's one of the highlights. That and the production design, I think they're very strong shots for Barbie to win. So they are clearly at the top here. Dune Part 2 is in a close second, I believe. They won costume design, I believe, for the first Dune. So that is probably the one strong contender up against Barbie for sure. I do have Barbie at number 1 still, but Dune Part 2, be on the lookout for him. Poor Things I have in because it looks like the costume work in that film is very strong as well. We're just going to have to see. I feel like I'm saying that so much in this video. We're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, these are early ass predictions, folks. I mean, a lot of these films haven't come out yet. I haven't seen a lot of these films yet. From what I've heard and from what I've heard and from what other people have been saying and what the stills look like and the trailers and everything, that's what I'm basing everything off of here. So, from what I've seen from Poor Things, the costume design work looks pretty wacky and pretty on point. And I believe the favorite won costume design, or at least it was nominated. If it wasn't nominated, I would be very surprised. It was nominated for costume design. It did not win. What won costume design that year? Black Panther. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. And Black Panther Wakanda Forever won last year. So yeah, okay. All right. So it'll, we'll see. I have it, Poor Things, I have it number 3. We'll see. I have it in for now. Moving on. Killers of the Flower Moon, I got it in just because it's going to just be nominated for most techs, I believe. It just makes sense that it will be nominated. All of the Native American and indigenous people's costumes look very authentic. Scorsese made this film in correlation and in connection with the Osage peoples. You might as well make it authentic. And Maestro I have in. A lot of people are saying Oppenheimer could get in for the period costumes there. Wonka could probably get in for some of their wacky costumes. Napoleon, we're just going to have to see how well that's going to perform. A lot of pretty amazing costume work in that film from what it looks like, from the trailers at least. So we're just going to have to see from that. Priscilla looks pretty solid. And, of course, The Color Purple I got to have in just in case it's a big player, which it might not be. It will be. Who knows right now. But for right now, I have Maestro. I have a feeling that Maestro could be a contender. I have a feeling about it. And a lot of those period costumes, I don't know. I just got a gut feeling about it. So it is very loosey-goosey placement right there at number 5. But for now, that is my 5. Let's move on. Editing, film editing. This is a big category. This has a lot of correlation with Best Picture. I've done a bit of research as far as the correlation between Best Picture and film editing. And from what it looks like, almost every year since the year 2000, a Best Picture nominee has been nominated for editing. Now, there's actually only one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 times out of the past 22, 23 years since the year 2000, basically, that the Best Picture winner also won editing. Um, and a lot of those occurrences were before the Best Picture lineup was expanded in 2009. Since 2009, The Hurt Locker, Argo, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, just last year, they're the only three, the German three, the only three Best Picture winners to win film editing. That being said, um, almost every one of those years, another Best Picture nominee has won. Outside of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo in 2011, and The Bourne Ultimatum randomly in 2007, and Black Hawk Down in 2001. But other than that, they've been filled with Best Picture nominees. Every now and again, you'll get like one. I mean, ever since 2009, it's pretty much been like all of the film editing nominees have been also nominated for Best Picture. The only exceptions have been Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Baby Driver, I, Tonya, and Tick Tick Boom. That's it. So you're gonna need some Best Picture noms in film editing. Maybe one. I mean, I don't know. Maybe one nominee not in Best Picture, but it's very few and far between, like I've mentioned. So all 5 of my picks are going to be nominated for Best Picture, in my predictions at least. Oppenheimer I have winning, even though I have Killers of a Flower Moon winning Best Picture right now. You know, as I've said, the Best Picture winner usually doesn't take home film editing, so if Killers wins, then Oppenheimer might pick up film editing. Maybe this year will be like last year, where Everything Everywhere wins both prizes. Maybe Oppenheimer will win Best Picture as well. But for right now, I have Oppenheimer winning editing. The editing in that film, much like Everything Everywhere last year, kind of makes that film. It's just so packed, jam-packed, and immaculately edited. It's, the film really jumps around a lot, like in several different timelines and going from color to black and white, and it's just expertly crafted, absolutely immaculately crafted. It is definitely my pick for editing, for sure. Even though this is the only this is the only film I've seen out of this whole list, other than Barbie, I guess, and Past Lives. But yeah, I do have it winning for sure. Killers probably in a close second. If that's going to be the Best Picture front runner, maybe runner up, I'll have that in 2 or 3. I have it in 2 right now. Dune Part 2 is number 3. The first Dune, won film editing, pretty much in a landslide. So that is definitely in contention to possibly take that home. The holdovers I have in, just because that's top 5 in my Best Picture lineup. And Maestro. I've heard the editing, from what I've heard, from the test screenings and everything like that, I've heard the editing is solid. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Then I have Saltburn. That's another possibility. Ferrari, for some reason the Academy likes to nominate films and editing that have to do with cars and racing. Look at Ford v Ferrari for an example. I think that even won editing. I gotta be true to my word here. It won editing and sound editing. So yeah, Ford v Ferrari won editing. Okay, so yeah, if it's a car movie, then the chances are higher for an editing nomination or even possibly a win. But I don't think Ferrari's going to win editing unless it comes out and it shocks everybody. But anyway, I have Past Lives in as well because that's number 3. My number 3 pick for Best Picture. Editing in that film is very strong. It's what makes the movie in a sense. In addition to the screenwriting. The Killer, we're going to have to see. I mean, David Fincher usually has very well edited films, so I wouldn't be surprised if that gets in. And then Barbie I threw in. because why not? It just made the most sense out of my Best Picture lineup to include Barbie. So that is film editing. Moving on from there. Makeup. I have Maestro winning. Mostly because I have Bradley Cooper winning, but also just look at Bradley Cooper in Maestro, in the stills of Maestro. He looks like Leonard frickin' Bernstein. Like, how'd they do it? So it's almost a shoo-in that they're going to win makeup and hairstyling for Maestro. Maybe Dune Part 2 will pull an upset because, of course, they won makeup, I believe, for the first Dune, so maybe that will be an upset. And then Barbie, I do see a world where that could possibly win. Makeup and hairstyling obviously is very strong in that film. A Different Man, which is a film about Joseph Merrick. And I believe Sebastian Stan plays Joseph Merrick, and he is an unrecognizable figure. Joseph Merrick, the Elephant Man, if you will, the very disfigured face. Just look up Joseph Merrick, and you'll see what I mean. That is very possible. There's always like one or two films that are not in the conversation whatsoever that the Academy will recognize and the makeup guilds will recognize, like Coming to America a couple years ago. I'm sure there's a ton of other examples that I can't think of right now, but I do see that happening. So a lot of Best Picture nominees you see here, and maybe some other films like maybe Wonka or Priscilla or Oppenheimer that could squeeze in that aren't Best Picture nominees, or outside of Oppenheimer. And then maybe one or two, throwing in, just, rando single nominations for some films. So, and I have Poor Things in as well. Just look at the trailer and you'll see what I mean. Emma Stone's look, her different costumes, her different hairstyles, and Mark Ruffalo's mustache, and Willem Dafoe's disfigured face, jowl, what's going on there. Of course, yeah, I'm gonna throw that in my top 5. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is very possible as well. Wonka, I think, is an option as well. Priscilla, Golda, starring Helen Mirren. She kind of looks like unrecognizable in that film. So, yeah, I think this top 10 and top 5 makes sense to me. And with that, we are moving on to production design. Dune won production design a couple years ago. I have a feeling that it could happen again. Like I previously said, Dune Part 2 looks even stronger technically than the first Dune, and the first Dune won, completely swept every tech category the year it came out. So, as great as Barbie's production design is, and as little pink paint that the world had, because there's apparently an international shortage of pink paint, look, maybe Barbie could upset. That would be cool if Dune and Oppenheimer kind of swept all the tech categories and then Barbie picks up production design. That would be pretty sweet. But for right now, I want to be realistic and just predict Dune Part 2 for now. We'll see what the guilds end up doing. We'll see what some of these precursors will end up doing. I got Dune Part 2 winning right now. Barbie in a very close second. Killers of the Flower Moon. Some of that production design from what I've seen in the trailers looks very impressive. The Osage town, the Osage, tribes and the towns that they build and the oil rigs and everything like that. Scorsese, his films usually pick up, one or two and possibly even a few more techs. So it makes sense for me to include it here. I do have Oppenheimer in. I do see it somehow missing, just because, it's mostly just courtrooms and rooms and classrooms, and that's mainly what the film is kind of takes place in. There is the town that they built in Los Alamos. It's like you see them building it, and there's very brief scenes and quick glances into the town and the I guess houses that they built. I don't know if it's going to be enough. the power of the dog was nominated in production design, and that was essentially just like a few houses in the middle of the desert, basically. I mean, they did over nominate Power of the Dog for sure. It got 12 nominations, so maybe if Oppenheimer gets over nominated, maybe it'll pick up production design. I do have it in just because like I just don't know a lot about some of these other categories and how well they will perform. So I have it in. I'm a little bit reluctant about it, but I have it in for now. Poor Things production design looks pretty wacky. It's very sci-fi, weird, eclectic. I mean, again, just look at the trailers. I feel like that is a possibility for sure. The Color Purple, again, we'll see what happens with that. Asteroid City is absolutely deserving of a production design nomination, as with most Wes Anderson films. The French Dispatch was egregiously snubbed for any category. It wasn't nominated anywhere. French Dispatch got snubbed. Grand Budapest won, of course. Okay, so Wes Anderson hasn't gotten a lot of production design nominations outside of Grand Budapest, strangely enough. So maybe Asteroid City is vulnerable. Maybe it is. And on top of Asteroid City receiving kind of mixed reviews, kind of polarizing reviews. There's some people who really love it, like myself, and some people who just don't connect with it at all. It's definitely not a crowd pleaser. It's a very challenging movie. So I don't know if the Academy is going to be into it, man. I just don't know. But I'm throwing it in anyway, just because how strong it is. It really is very strong. But moving on from there, I have Maestro. I feel like there's going to be a lot of different set pieces in that film, since it chronicles the most of Leonard Bernstein's life. So we'll see about that. Wonka, I have to put in our top 10 just because, Willy Wonka, Chocolate Factory, shit. Saltburn, I have in. Some of the stills look pretty impressive as far as, like the big estate that I guess some or most of the film takes place. Outdoors, indoors, maybe that's possible. We'll see. But that's my top 5. Moving on from there. Best original score. Here we go. I'm pretty sure Oppenheimer is walking away with this one. I mean, if you've seen Oppenheimer and you've listened to that music, bro, Oppenheimer is 3 hours long. There's maybe 15 or 20 minutes of the film with no music. It's so prominent, and there's so much amazing music in that film. The ending, the music leading up to the Trinity test sequence, just it's very, very good quality music for sure. A lot of different styles, a lot of different timbres that Ludwig Göransson has kind of utilized in the film. A lot of strings, but there's also some like synthesizer thrown in there, some horns, of course. It's not even like Hans Zimmer-esque. It's more of a unique blend of, I guess, different sounds that you would typically hear from like an Inception-esque or an Interstellar-esque Hans Zimmer score. It's got to be winning. It's got to be winning. It is very, very good. But if there is an upset, which it's possible. There's a small chance that Hans Zimmer could come back and win once again for Dune Part 2, as he did with Dune. He swept pretty much, I would say, most original score awards for the first Dune. So, maybe it'll be more of the same thing. Maybe he'll reuse some music from the first film, so the Academy is like, we already awarded you, so we'll give it to Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer. That could very well happen. But I gotta have it in as a second place pick here. We're just gonna have to see. We're just gonna have to see what the music is like in Dune Part 2. Elemental, I have in, actually. Thomas Newman has been nominated several times, and he's never won. In fact, let me look up how many times Thomas Newman has been nominated. I don't think he's won. Jesus. First of all, he was nominated twice in one year, 1994, for Shawshank Redemption and Little Women. He was nominated for Unstrung Heroes, American Beauty, Road to Perdition, Finding Nemo, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, The Good German, Wall-E, Best Original Song for Down to Earth from Wall-E, Skyfall, Saving Mr. Banks, Bridge of Spies, Passengers, 1917. Why are people not considering Thomas Newman for Elemental this year? I see a lot of people that are not having him in the conversation. Maybe in the conversation, but not in like the nomination conversation. Dude, to me that's a no-brainer. And I haven't seen Elemental, but I've heard the music is one of the strongest points of that film. It's got to be in. It's got to be in. Unless something happens when the season kicks off or when we're in mid-season where it just loses steam somehow, or if it's just like snubbed for whatever reason, I don't know. It's got to be happening for Thomas Newman, for sure. It's got to be happening. We'll see. But I think all season long, I will probably have Thomas Newman in my 5. Again, unless something happens. Anyway. Next up, I have Killers of the Flower Moon for the late, great Robbie Robertson, who actually just passed away this past week. Rest in peace, Robbie Robertson, the great singer-songwriter who has been a frequent collaborator of Scorsese's. Okay, so Robbie Robertson has not been nominated for our original score, unfortunately. But for number one, I hear the music in Killers of the Flower Moon is very unique. It has this kind of like rock-esque, like backbeat quality to it that's very acoustic, and it kind of drives the film forward in a way. And, you know, it's the Academy's opportunity to give him a posthumous nomination. I see it happening. I see it happening for sure. And then I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in. Stanley Pemberton's score is very solid in that film. Since I have the film in Best Picture, an adapted screenplay, and of course animated feature, I have a feeling that this could also happen. Give it like that 4 nomination package. It makes sense to me. So I have that in. Right below the line, rather, I have Indiana Jones: Dial of Destiny, John Williams. You know, say what you want about John Williams, and say what you want about the Dial of Destiny being one of the lesser, in fact, probably the least good Indiana Jones film out there. Look, Williams is gonna Williams sometimes, you know, just like Deakins is gonna Deakins, but more so Williams is gonna Williams because he's been nominated dozens of times. He was nominated last year for The Fabelmans. How much music was in that film? Not much. I see it possibly happening. I mean, Rise of Skywalker was nominated. I mean, they love to nominate John Williams. So it's very possible that one of these top 5 picks could get snubbed, and they'll just be like, here you go, John Williams. It's probably one of your last films. Here you go. Will it win? Absolutely not. But I do see a world where that could possibly get in. So it's at number 6, on the cusp there. Past Lives I have in the top 10. I love the score in Past Lives. It's from Christopher Bear and Daniel Rawson, who are from the band Grizzly Bear. They crafted this kind of like folky, ambient, very melancholic score to Past Lives, and it's a character in itself in the film. It's beautiful. It's wonderful, and I would really love to see them get a nomination here. They haven't been nominated before, obviously, but it would be great to see that. So, will it be a part of that Best Picture package, the small Best Picture package that Past Lives might unfortunately get? Let's hope so. Of course, I got to throw in Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, Academy favorites, for their score for The Killer. I have not heard the score for The Killer yet, but I just got to have them in just because, you know, they've won several times, and their presence in the Academy is very strong, so got to have them in. Poor Things I have in randomly. Jerskin Fendrix, who's kind of a no-name to a lot of people. I mean, I don't really know why I have either Poor Things or Napoleon in. Um, from the trailer, the Poor Things music sounded pretty crazy. Sounded pretty eclectic. So, I don't know. It's an outside shot for sure, both of these films. But they are down at the bottom there. So, in any case, that's my list for original score. Let's move on to original song. So I think the Billie Eilish song from Barbie, What Was I Made For, is, I think it's easily taking this one. It's a really powerful song that is used at the end of the film and during the end credits. It's super catchy. Billie Eilish, swept the award season when she won for No Time to Die. I just see it happening, and I'm not sure how well the song is charting now, and how well it's performing now, and how well the licensed soundtrack for Barbie is performing right now. Now, I see it winning. I see it winning for sure. I don't really know what else to say. It's a great song. It belongs to that film. The film is obviously a huge sensation right now. It's got to be happening. It's got to be happening. And I do have I'm Just Ken in my top 5 as well at number 4 for right now. I do also have a Diane Warren slot. Every time Diane Warren writes a song for a film that 3 people have seen in the world, she gets nominated. I don't know why. I don't know why the Academy loves her so much. But we got to have a slot for her. We got to have a slot for one of the original songs in The Color Purple. And I do have the titular song from Wish in as well, which I have not heard yet, but we know about it. We know about it. So it's kind of a no-brainer for me to have that in as well. I'm Just Ken, I don't know if that's going to win. I think the Academy typically likes to award the more emotionally resonant song, the more popular song from the film. I mean, I think I'm Just Ken might be a little more popular, but I don't know. I just feel like the Academy would go for What Was I Made For, just because it's Billie Eilish too. I don't know. We'll see. We'll just have to see. Steal the Show from Elemental, I have not heard, but that is also in conversation. Quiet Eyes from Past Lives by Sharon Van Etten, I'm not sure. That's a possibility. A little bit of an outside shot, but I mean, the song from Everything Everywhere last year got nominated, so I mean, maybe that will be the same case for this song. I do have in Peaches by Jack Black for the Super Mario Bros. Movie at number 9. I doubt that's going to get nominated. I'm sorry. As good as that song is, and it's kind of a joke. As good as the song is, it's kind of a joke song. I'd be very surprised if the Academy says that one. I mean, I'd be tickled pink if they did it, but I would be very shocked. But I gotta have it in somewhere. And then we don't know much about the music that's going to happen in the Wonka film, but I do have a slot in there for that as well. So, but yeah, Billie Eilish, I think you got this one in the bag. We're just going to see what happens. How many times have I said that phrase? Okay, moving on. A couple categories left. We have sound, best sound. Oppenheimer it's really between Oppenheimer and Dune Part 2 right now. The sound is very, very strong. Was very strong for the first Dune, so maybe, Dune Part 2 will pull off the same feat. But I gotta say, after seeing Oppenheimer, the sound work in Oppenheimer is incredible. All throughout the film, especially the parts where Oppenheimer kind of has these like visions, these like scientific, like apparition. What's the freaking word? Apparitions. Vignettes of just like visual effects, like practical visual effects with like really like weird sounds. that fill the theater when you hear them. The Trinity test sequence, the sound work in that scene is immaculate. The scene in the gymnasium where Oppenheimer's giving his speech, arguably the best scene in the film. The sound work in that scene is breathtaking and jaw-dropping. It's got to be nominated, and I really think it has the chance to win this category. So I have it number 1, Dune Part 2 in second. Ferrari, again, car movie. The Academy likes car movies. They gotta, they're probably gonna give a shout out to a car movie. This is the one. It's called Ferrari. So that's in. Killers of the Flower Moon, again, it's Best Picture frontrunner. Got to have it in a lot of these texts. Sound work in that film could be very solid. And then The Color Purple I have in randomly. I actually don't know why I have that in number 5. I don't really have my reasons. I don't know. It could be Color Purple. It could be even Spider-Man. That would be sweet. Not a lot of animated films have gotten into a lot of these texts outside of maybe visual effects. I don't see it happening. I mean, Maestro is very possible because that is a music-driven film. Much like Tar was, even though Tar is probably going to be, Maestro is probably going to be a little bit different than what Tar was, as far as the sound design is concerned. But since it is a music film, Whiplash won sound, one of the sound categories, I believe. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe I should have Maestro at number 5, actually. Switch Color Purple between. Okay, anyway. The Killer I have in randomly. Fincher films, usually have good technical assets to them, such as sound. Mission Impossible and John Wick Chapter 4 I also have in. These blockbuster action films obviously have great sound work. And I will say that John Wick Chapter 4 sound work is very, very good. I mean, the punches from John Wick on the punching bag in the middle of the movie almost made me deaf. So anyway, I have that in. I think that makes sense outside of maybe Color Purple. Maybe I'll put Maestro in that slot next time. So that is sound, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at visual effects. This is probably one of the easiest categories. It's probably going to Dune Part 2. The first Dune swept the season a couple years ago. Like I said, the technical aspects of Dune Part 2 look even stronger than the first one. It's probably going to win. I do have Oppenheimer at number 2. I understand the point that people make that there really is there's no CGI in Oppenheimer. That doesn't mean Oppenheimer doesn't have visual effects, people. Okay? It's practical. It's everything in Oppenheimer is practical visual effects. And if you've seen the film, that is very impressive. The bomb exploding, all of the weird, very second long, like, scientific vignettes that I talked about earlier. A lot of the practical effects on. Well, I'm not going to probably get into that. There's other scenes where the practical effects are at the forefront. So I do see it still getting in. People were like, "Oh, let's dismiss it in visual effects. So let's just remove it." No, dude. Just because there's no CGI doesn't mean that there's still no visual effects. The visual effects are just practical, okay? So I have it in at number 2. Maybe the Academy will pull off an Ex Machina where they just give it to a more creative use of visual effects, like Ex Machina, First Man. Remember that? First Man won visual effects over, like, what was it, Infinity War or some shit like that? What was it? First Man. Gotta look it up. Gotta look it up. Visual effects it won. What were the other nominees? Oh yeah, wasn't it Mad Max? Or was that the Ex Machina year? That was the Ex Machina year. Dude, it beat Infinity War in visual effects. Christopher Robin, Ready Player One, Solo: A Star Wars Story. Dude, First Man beat Avengers: Infinity War in visual effects. And then let's take a look at, what was it? Was it this year? Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah, Mad Max Fury. Okay, visual effects went to, like I said, Ex Machina. It beat out Mad Max Fury Road, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, The Martian, and The Revenant. So, look, man, am I gonna put Oppenheimer at number one, bro? Not just yet. Not just yet. But I do see a world where the Academy could possibly do that. Like a big upset. Like, here, Nolan, you done some crazy shit with those practical visual effects in Oppenheimer. You're nominated in a bunch of other places. You're a Best Picture frontrunner. Here you go. Over Dune Part 2, which the first Dune already won. Dude, I'm getting more and more convinced to swap these two bitches up top here. Am I going to do it? I'm not going to do it. I mean, it's written in stone right now. It's written in stone right now. But my next predictions video, maybe I'll do a flip-flop. Maybe I'll do a flip-flop. Maybe I'll do a flip-flop. But anyway, I digress. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Very strong visual effects in that film. The first film, I think, either won or was nominated. So that's got to be in. The Creator, which is a new... What was that, a Zack Snyder movie, I think? I don't know much about it, but from what I've heard, the visual effects are going to be great. As far as like the budget is concerned and who's making it. Gareth Edwards is directing it. From the director of Rogue One. Okay. But yeah, it's just like a science fiction film, and I've heard that the visual effects will be in contention and in the conversation. So I'm just gonna take people's word for it. I've done just a little bit of research, but not much. But I'm gonna throw it in there. And then the fifth slot is kind of up in the air. Right now I have Indiana Jones, just because it's an Indiana Jones film. Dial of Destiny, who knows? Maybe that'll get in. Maybe D&D Honor Among Thieves will get in. I heard the visual effects in that film are very solid. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, that's a possibility. Not a lot of animated films have gotten in. A few of them have gotten in. If it's going to be in picture, if it's going to be in the picture conversation, maybe it'll get in. That's why I have it at number 7. And then some of these other films like Mission Impossible and Little Mermaid have pretty good visual effects, so I got to have them in. And then Poor Things I have randomly in. The visual effects the color palette and I think there's a lot of green screen stuff going on. I'm not sure if they film like on location and just kind of like tweak it, or if it's just like all green screen. But from what it looks like, Poor Things looks pretty crazy visually. So I gotta have that in too. We'll see how that film does with the Academy, but that's visual effects. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that is going to be it. Now there's some other categories I didn't really cover. I didn't cover documentary, feature. I just haven't done a lot of research on what documentaries are coming out and what documentaries could be in the conversation to be nominated. That category is it's an anomaly. It's kind of an exception in this whole like early season kind of thing. I don't really pay attention to either documentary or the short categories until much later in the season, probably mid season. I'll probably start kind of talking about some of that. But yeah, so the documentary, feature, and the short categories I have not discussed. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen, those are my Oscar predictions. My first Oscar predictions for the 2023-2024 award season. My phrase for this video, I guess I've said it tons of times, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with some of these films that are going to be coming out and premiering during the film festivals in the next couple months, and how they'll perform at the box office this fall. And we'll get a better understanding by the next predictions video I do. I'm not sure when that's going to be. Maybe at the top of the season when the season starts, or maybe a month into it, maybe like around October, or maybe even November, or who knows, maybe I'll do another one next month. I'm not sure. But in any case, thank you guys for watching. This is squaring up to be another exciting award season. By the way, the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes are still going on, unfortunately. I'm not sure if there's going to be any end in sight. I mean, they've been talking a little bit, but it's getting pretty tight. I mean, these festivals are going to start coming, and a lot of these stars and writers and actors are not going to be there to promote these films. It's looking a little concerning. If these strikes go on into the fall, like I said, it's gonna look a lot different this year. But in any case, hopefully things will work out soon. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more predictions and reviews and content and whatnot. Ladies and gentlemen, Oscar Guy is out.